Hello, and welcome to Book Summarist. Imagine this. You walk into work one morning, excited about a project you've poured your heart into. You present your ideas to the team, but instead of the applause you expected, your manager dismisses it with a casual, "That won't work." No explanation, no constructive feedback, just rejection. The words hit harder than they should. By lunchtime, your mind is spiraling. Why didn't they like it? Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't even be in this role. You replay the scenario over and over, letting a single moment define your entire day. Sound familiar? That one incident hijacked your peace of mind, and all because you took someone else's words personally. But what if you didn't? What if you could stop giving so much power to others' opinions? That's exactly what Don Miguel Ruiz teaches in his transformative book, The 4 Agreements. It's a guide to freeing yourself from unnecessary suffering and living authentically. And it starts by rewriting the agreements you've unconsciously made with yourself. Rooted in ancient Toltec wisdom, the 4 Agreements offers 4 powerful principles that can help you break free from societal conditioning, negative thought patterns, and emotional turmoil. By practicing these agreements, you can reclaim your peace, build healthier relationships, and live a life of true freedom. Now, let's break down these 4 agreements and see how they can transform your life, starting with the immense power of your words. 1. Be impeccable with your word. Let's go back to that work scenario. Your manager's offhand dismissal of your idea left you spiraling. But pause for a moment. What if instead of obsessing over their response, you shifted your focus inward and asked yourself, how am I speaking to myself right now? Most people would be shocked if they had to say out loud the things they silently tell themselves. I'm so dumb for messing that up. I'll never be good enough. Why do I always fail? These words are destructive seeds planted in your mind, and over time, they grow into a toxic belief system that limits your potential. Don Miguel Ruiz tells us that being impeccable with your word doesn't just mean avoiding lies and gossip. It means choosing language that uplifts, empowers, and aligns with your true self. But let's not pretend that's always easy. Think about your conversations with others. Have you ever blurted out something in anger that you instantly regretted? Maybe you snapped at a friend or belittled a colleague, and the damage lingered long after the words faded. That's the weight of careless speech. Ruiz warns that words are like magic spells. Once released, they have the power to heal or destroy. And guess what? The person you cast those spells on the most is yourself. So how do you practice this agreement? It starts by paying attention. Imagine a personal language filter. Before you speak, ask yourself 3 questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? You'd be amazed at how many conversations improve when you simply pause to filter your words. But it doesn't stop with how you talk to others. If anything, the real work begins inside your head. Next time you catch yourself thinking, I'm such a failure, challenge it. What would I say to a friend in this situation? Would I call them a failure? Probably not. Treat yourself with that same level of compassion. Ruiz's point is simple. Words create your reality. If you speak love, truth, and empowerment, that becomes the foundation of your life. And when you speak with integrity, people trust you more because they know your words have weight and meaning. 2. Don't take anything personally. Here's a question. How many times have you let someone's words or actions ruin your day? Maybe your boss criticized your work in front of the whole team. Maybe your partner forgot something important to you. Or maybe a random stranger gave you a dirty look, and you couldn't stop wondering, what did I do wrong? That's the trap Ruiz warns about. Taking things personally is one of the biggest sources of unnecessary suffering. He reminds us, nothing others do is because of you. It's a reflection of their reality, their beliefs, their struggles, not your worth. But here's the thing, our instinct is to make everything about us. Let's go back to the boss who criticized your work. Your mind jumps to conclusions. They think I'm incompetent. I'm going to get fired. I'll never be successful. But what if the boss was just stressed because of a meeting with their own superior? What if it had nothing to do with your performance at all? Most of the time, that's the case. People's reactions are shaped by their own experiences, moods, and pressures, not by who you are. Ruiz shares a powerful perspective. When you stop taking things personally, you free yourself from being emotionally controlled by others. I remember a friend who used to be devastated whenever she received negative feedback at work. She'd spend days obsessing over it, doubting her abilities. One day, after reading the 4 agreements, she decided to put this principle into practice. The next time her manager snapped at her, she calmly reminded herself, "This isn't about me. I know my value." She responded professionally, addressed the issue, and moved on. Her productivity soared, and her mental health improved dramatically. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about reclaiming your emotional power. Next time someone criticizes you, try this. Mentally step back and ask, what's really going on here? Is this about me, or is it their perspective talking? And here's a mind-blowing twist. This agreement applies even to praise. That's right. Ruiz warns against getting too attached to compliments because they can trap you in a cycle of needing external validation. Instead, ground yourself in your inner truth. You know who you are, and that's enough. Can you imagine how much lighter life would feel if you stopped taking things so personally? You'd be free to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your joy, and your authentic journey. 3. Don't make assumptions. Have you ever been in a situation where you were absolutely convinced someone was upset with you, only to find out later that you were completely wrong? Maybe a friend didn't respond to your text for hours, and your mind started racing. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Maybe they're distancing themselves. Then they finally reply with, "Sorry, I was in a meeting all day." How much unnecessary stress did that assumption cause you? Ruiz calls this out as one of the most common sources of misunderstandings and conflict. Our minds naturally fill in gaps when we lack information. But those mental stories are often based on fear and insecurity, not truth. Think about a time at work when your manager assigned you a task, but the instructions were vague. Instead of clarifying, you assumed you knew what they wanted and went full speed ahead. Only later did you find out your assumption was wrong, leading to frustration on both sides. Ruiz emphasizes that assumptions create chaos in our lives. They lead to hurt feelings, damaged relationships, and wasted energy. So, how do you stop making assumptions? It's simple, but not always easy. Ask questions. Seek clarity. I once knew a couple who constantly fought because of assumptions. The husband would come home from work, exhausted and quiet. The wife assumed he was upset with her and started acting cold in response. He assumed she was being distant for no reason, which made him defensive. This pattern continued until they finally sat down and had a real conversation. Turns out he just needed a few minutes to decompress after work. That single conversation transformed their evenings. They learned to communicate openly instead of assuming the worst. How to apply this in daily life, you ask? At work, if you're unsure about a task or feedback, don't guess, ask. A simple, "Can you clarify what success looks like for this project?" can save hours of frustration. In relationships, if you feel hurt or confused, don't bottle it up. Say something like, "Hey, I noticed you've been quiet. Is everything okay?" 9 times out of 10, you'll realize it had nothing to do with you. With yourself, don't assume you'll fail before even trying. Challenge those negative narratives with facts. Is this fear based on reality or just a story I'm telling myself? Ruiz makes a compelling point. Life becomes clearer and more peaceful when you stop assuming and start communicating. Imagine the misunderstandings you could avoid and the deeper connections you could build simply by asking, "What's really going on?" 4. Always do your best. Let's talk about those days when you feel unstoppable. You're productive, confident, and knocking tasks off your to-do list like a champion. But then, there are other days when just getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. Your energy is low, your motivation is missing, and everything seems harder than it should be. We've all been there, right? Here's the thing. Miguel Ruiz says that both of those days are equally valid, as long as you do your best. But, and this is the key, your best will look different depending on the circumstances. I remember a friend who was training for a marathon. On some days, she would run 10 miles effortlessly. But on other days, she struggled to complete even 3. One morning, after a particularly rough run, she was beating herself up, calling herself lazy. I asked her, "Did you show up and give it your best today?" She thought for a moment and said, "I guess I did," even though it felt awful. That realization was liberating. Ruiz would agree. Her best on that day was different from her best on a good day, but it was still valid. And that's the heart of this agreement. It's not about perfection. It's about presence and effort. When you hold yourself to unrealistic standards, you set yourself up for guilt and burnout. But when you focus on doing your best, whatever that looks like in the moment, you gain peace of mind. You stop living with regret because you know you gave it your all. This principle also applies to dealing with others. Imagine being in a relationship where both people commit to doing their best. Even when challenges arise, there's respect and understanding because both partners are showing up fully. You can apply this in various ways, like at work. Instead of striving for constant perfection, aim for consistent effort. If you miss a deadline, ask yourself, did I genuinely do my best with the time and resources I had? For health, on days when you can't make it to the gym, a 10-minute walk might be your best. And that's okay, it still counts. And for self-judgment, when you fall short of your own expectations, remind yourself, I showed up. I did what I could. That mindset shift is powerful. And here's the most beautiful part. When you do your best, the other 3 agreements naturally fall into place. You speak with integrity, you stop taking things personally, and you seek clarity instead of making assumptions. Ruiz's wisdom isn't about following rigid rules. It's about living with awareness, compassion, and authenticity. When you practice these 4 agreements, life becomes less chaotic and more intentional. Life is a series of choices, and each day presents a chance to align with these agreements. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a new mindset. You speak with integrity, lifting yourself and those around you. You move through your day without being weighed down by the opinions of others. You seek understanding instead of assumptions, and you end your day with pride, knowing you gave it your best. This isn't about perfection, it's about freedom. Freedom from needless suffering, from self-imposed limitations, and from living on autopilot. Ruiz's timeless wisdom reminds us that peace, joy, and fulfillment aren't found in grand achievements. They're found in the way we show up for life. One conversation, one thought, one action at a time. So here's the challenge. Which agreement will you start living today? The journey isn't always easy, but it's worth it. And as you take that first step, remember, you're not just transforming your life. You're becoming the best version of yourself, one agreement at a time. If you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into transforming your mindset and unlocking your true potential, check out our next video on Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. It's a powerful guide to taking control of your thoughts, emotions, and life decisions. Don't miss it. See you in the next video.